Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. We are live. We had no sound. One of these times, we are not going to always make that mistake. That being said, I had us muted on this end, so
That's hilarious.
God bless Bama boy. So on today's docket, we're going to be talking about a Super Bowl recap, going over all the craziness that came from this weekend. Joe Biden isn't competent enough to stand trial for the mishandling of classified documents. However, he is competent enough to still be president who handles classified documents. No biggie. That also being said, the last topic of the day is the write-in candidate of none of these candidates won the Nevada primary. So there's still hope for the public, and it'll at least make for a great conversation. That being said, it's funny. We like making gags for reasons why I'm not here or why, David's not here. But quite literally, I could say David isn't here because he got trapped on his way back from Puerto Rico. He got snowed into New York. So that being said, we brought him from the couch into the studio. Second chair joining me today is my good friend, Doug Sluka.
Hello, everybody. I've been called to the major leagues, and I'm happy to serve. Put
Love
me
it.
in, coach. I'm ready.
That being said, we couldn't do it without our good friend on the keys, Brian Samal.
What up, people? Again, how's it going? Yeah, I'm enjoying the little bit of snow we got today, even though it wasn't even called a dusting. And too bad David got that extra snow that we wanted. I wanted.
Yeah. Brian's like, and I'm stuck inside, not snowboarding.
Yeah.
Hey, that being said, because you have my phone, because Dave, usually we use David's phone for the Brian camera. If you go in the top right corner of the screen,
Yes, sir.
like you want to put it on do not disturb wherever that is an option. Unfortunately,
Android guy navigating a iPhone.
click over one more.
computer.
Like it's along the top there. It's not going to be that exact one. So never mind. Like, you know how there's little icons along the top?
This guy.
Nope. Go over one more.
Do not disturb, Siri.
Hey,
No.
yeah, turn up the volume. All right. That being said, let's do a recap of the Super Bowl. Craziness happened, but also kind of exactly the playbook I expected. They did a great job of playing the sports bettors into thinking the 49ers actually had a chance. And I got to believe the Shakespearean play did a good job of convincing us, took us all the way to overtime. But you may just say it was good, wholehearted competition. And it was a fun time nonetheless. I think most of the country is disappointed to see who actually came out the victor. That being said, that's the one. Scroll over. See the one with the moon? That's gray. Damn.
Got it.
There we go. So
There
that
we
being said, Dougie, before I go off the rails here and give all of my impressions of the Super Bowl, what are some of your thoughts as we kind of close the weekend and recap the Super Bowl?
Well, one, I liked how at the end the Chiefs still claimed to be the underdogs, even though they were the defending champs and made it all the way there. Like, were you ever really underdogs in this season? And then, of course, the constant Taylor Swift cam. Some poor camera guy who had to work the Super Bowl. Whole job was to just keep a camera on Taylor Swift the whole game. No matter what happened, he had it on her.
But also, okay, so there was a camera guy whose job was solely to watch the box that they're all hanging out in. But then that also means there's that producer van. Like there's a van outside the stadium that has all the 8 different camera, or 25 different camera angles, and they have multiple people. Some poor sap's job is just watching. Like one cameraman is just filming her, then another producer is just watching the one frame, waiting for like her to chug a beer or
waiting to catch that moment of excitement that they can show to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, Taylor just celebrated and jumped up and down. We got to show it to everybody.
Now all you Swifties need to love Chiefs.
Yeah.
So what is funny, Brian, if you could get the Joe Biden picture up, I absolutely love, first off, that the White House leans into the meme of like that it's all rigged. According to the playbook, it all went to plan. And for those of you that don't understand the meme, like that's from The Boys. And he's supposed to be, what's the guy's name? Homelander. And there's a lot of parallels here. Like one, you're just as crooked and lacking of empathy as Homelander. And it's, to me, just eerily similar, but also you didn't instill confidence in me that it isn't rigged. I don't know. What do you think of the tweet?
I mean,
It's the tweeted by the president.
But it's also only the second Super Bowl to go into overtime. First one with these new rules. And I think it's ironic that this rule was made because the Bills couldn't beat the Chiefs. Like that's why this rule was changed for overtimes. And so the Chiefs may have lost to the Bills like last year if this rule existed. Well, now they clearly benefited from this new rule because if this rule didn't exist, 49ers would have
What
won.
rule? What like
We're now like, unless the first team to possesses the ball in overtime scores a touchdown, the other team has a chance to pretty much
I thought
rebuttal.
that's been around for a little while.
No, this is the first year with it, the first like overtime with it in the Super Bowl. And
I
think
know
it
I've
was
read
this year.
that. I thought I've read that this was the first year that they implemented a new rule. But that being said, I could have sworn that it's definitely been that for college. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
that-
college is, yeah.
but it should be that way. Like it should. The whole game shouldn't come down to a coin flip. But also at some point, I understand. Like, all right, you've been playing this for 2.5 hours. Like, we got to just come to a victor now.
Well, and then the interesting part too is 49ers held that ball for so long in that overtime. Then everyone's question is, what happens if time runs out in overtime before the Chiefs like get down there? It's like, well, they had their possession. The game would probably just end with the four, but no one knows. First time with that new rule would have been pretty interesting if something crazy like that would have happened.
But do you think the wrong victor came out ahead with this new rule? Like, I don't find it to be unfair, and I find it to be exactly
unfair.
how you should do overtime. Like, you definitely don't want it to be just one offensive series that ended with a field goal, and that's the entire Super Bowl. Like, I'm not.
I saw some that said, they wanted to make people not think it was rigged, which is why that, what was it, Harding dude scored the last pass and Kelsey like didn't catch the ball there or something. It's like, because they just wanted people to think like it wasn't planned that they were going to win, because if they wanted to just win, they would have just given the ball to Kelsey. No, they had to make it look like it was a challenge to win. So throw it to that third string receiver out in the corner and win the game.
How about that clip of him just like chewing out Andy Reid, like just grabbing him and just like screaming at him to give him the ball? It's like, I understand ultra competitiveness, and this is the highest level of competition, but that also is not like a healthy teammate mentality. Like, this isn't about you, dude. And I'm sorry, like, Travis Kelce actually didn't win the game, so it didn't need to go to you. And so this, like, you're not Michael Jordan, and this mentality of like, it needs to be me, give me the ball. Well, obviously it wasn't right, because you weren't even the one that won it. I don't know, Brian. What are your thoughts?
It was giving me Ray Lewis. Yeah, Ray Lewis vibes hard. And
he killed a guy, so there's that.
yeah, and beat that woman. Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Well,
it was all around kind of like it's not a good show when you put that on live TV, and like they showed the whole thing like while we were watching it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. But again, the world is their stage. I don't know. That being said, I like, Doug was talking about how Taylor Swift was all over the screen and they were watching her the whole time. Are you familiar with the new pop sensation Ice Spice? No.
Was she one of the many people in that box with her then?
She was. She was a prime guest joining Taylor. Brian, can you play this clip? This is Taylor chugging a beer. She's a regular girl's girl. The place is booing her. But here's what's crazy. Okay, Brian, play it one more time. But hold on, before you hit play.
Yeah.
So Taylor, you see her. She's on the right.
Yep.
And then to the left of her, the blonde in the black dress is Patrick Mahomes' wife.
Yep.
And then right next to her, looking kind of like a circus clown, with a giant orange afro.
Yes.
Kind of like the Kicked in the Nuts YouTube guy. You remember him?
Yeah,
Way
upside
back
down
in the
cross.
day. Yeah. Okay. Watch that character. Not to mention, go ahead. Go ahead. They're chugging. What is she doing right there with her hands?
Oh.
Brian.
Yep.
Say it. What is it? What's she doing?
Satanic cult practices.
It's just crazy. And guess what she's got around her neck? An upside down cross. Play it one more time. Check out her hands. Chug. Oh, we're on the Megatron for everybody to see? Wah, 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 wah. Okay. Come on.
That gives me chills.
That's the side effect of having a Taylor cam. Maybe you shouldn't have your one camera focused on one person the entire game. Maybe you should be focused on, I don't know, the game.
Wait, how about, thank God we did have it, because then we were able to catch the fact that I'm so bummed David isn't here, only for the fact that
Wow.
I would love to see him refute this instance of satanic witchery. I keep calling them out that Taylor Swift is a witchcraft, whatever. She's part of a coven. And then here they are with their upside down, crosses like, I don't know. Pretty goofy. Now,
Not helping her case.
seriously, I'm just saying, as she literally does a witch ritual in the middle of a concert that you're all paying like $5,000 to go see. That being said, I have to say I appreciate friends like Doug and, Brian, you would have been there with us. I don't know. Maybe you would have hung out with Will and my sister, who are now cursed for the year. But that's their own doing. I got to say, I appreciate my friends that when I hold my stance on my schizophrenic belief. So I am 100% convinced. I've watched enough videos and read enough to wholeheartedly believe that the Super Bowl halftime has some dark arts with it. This is the one time the most human beings are watching one thing at one time.
Most
So,
watched Super Bowl with the ratings ever.
Sure. So the most watched Super Bowl, but just think, there's a person in China at 2 a.m. glued to their screen, like a person in India, even if it's just a couple, across the entire rock is the most people focused on one broadcast at one time. And when you really go down the rabbit hole of vibrations and frequencies and everything else,
okay,
there, at least the door for the potential is there. The perfect opportunity for nefarious dark arts. I also just don't trust these actors at all. So we just go in the basement and play a game of Purple Haze. It's like pool. You just run around and throw pool balls.
Yep.
We did that the whole time. It was great. And here's what's even funnier. I'm assuming you watched the Super Bowl halftime.
Oh yeah.
So you can enlighten us, because we didn't bestow ourselves
I mostly
to the
had
curse.
zero interest in
Usher. So that being said,
I like Usher, so I was cool with it.
listen, I'm a big fan of Yeah. Love that song. Been
Yep.
singing it as loud as I can for the longest time.
Yeah.
At the same time, I've been singing it so long and so much, I could skip this one time.
Okay.
And it's not that I don't believe you can't watch the Super Bowl halftime. I also just think it's not good to watch it live when they're all tapped into the same frequency. Crazy, I know. But I just love, I've now not watched the Super Bowl halftime for the last 5 years.
Okay.
And life has gotten increasingly better ever since then. Correlation, causation, it's not a cause. It's definitely more of a correlation. However, I'm not going to go down the diatribe of my beliefs at the Super Bowl halftime, but what I will say is this. It is interesting every time when it's over, you're not missing anything. We are such lemmings. When you try to convince somebody not to watch something that's so culturally significant and such an embedded fabric of our society, and you're just don't watch those 4 minutes. Talk about the black swan, right? Or, the black sheep. You are asking to be ostracized because it's just nonsensical and outrageous. But then when it's over, you're like, what did I miss? The Weeknd doing what? Everybody hated it. Every time it's over, everybody's like, yeah, it was kind of shit again. Doug had the greatest comment. He goes, why do we have to keep listening to pop stars? How about we get some real music? And Will was saying that too. He's
My favorite halftime was Tom Petty in 2008 or whenever he was on. I'll remember it. Big Tom Petty fan. Great halftime show.
Yeah, and they haven't done anything like that in forever.
They had Red Hot Chili Peppers back when I was in college, 6, 8.
Yeah,
10
dude.
years
It's
ago.
been like
Then,
10
like, the
years since we were in
last-
college.
Pretty
That's
much
a
since then,
decade.
it's all been the same thing.
Yeah. And it's all marketing, right? Like it's all promoting a major cog in the machine. So like Usher just so happened to be starting his residency in Las Vegas and this concert was in Las Vegas. Like, I'm sorry. You don't have to convince me that Adele and Britney Spears are able to sell out a gigantic Las Vegas arena every night. You don't have to convince me of that. I am 100% convinced you locate Britney Spears or Adele only in this location for 6 months and people will travel the world to that location to hear that person. I'm sorry, Usher isn't that guy to me. He's never seemed like that guy to me. I loved him growing up, but his cultural significance was barely there at his peak, let alone compared to right now. Dude, if you didn't own the Cavs, you wouldn't exist to us. You're a minority stakeholder. You're like as much as Myles Garrett, but you wouldn't exist to us here. To me, you lost your cultural significance. It feels pushed, but I like a song here or there. I grew up on them. There's plenty that I remember. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? You're very quiet.
I
got a
mean,
couple thoughts.
I liked your point. I mean, I could care less about Usher. I don't think he can really sell out every night. Like you said, there are for sure people that people would travel to see, and Usher's not one of them. And I didn't care about the same frequency and all that, but I just was like, there are better things I can do in between, in this halftime period, because I was going to watch the game for sure. So it's like, all right, a little break from sitting down, and then it's right back to sitting on my butt for another 2 hours.
I agree.
So Bama Boy said he's never watched a Super Bowl, and there goes the lights. You want to do the clap on the Dre and Eminem halftime show was good, he said. I want to say that the whole house while we were watching Usher do the Super Bowl halftime was electrifying. It was very intense and very amplified. Everyone in the house was just like super jaked up and ready to just rip off their
crunk.
They were
Yeah.
I mean, he took off his shirt and all the girls were like, "Ah!" And we were just kind of like, oh damn, like he's going in. I don't know.
C-malls were tapped into that frequency, baby.
They definitely got in that frequency.
So I don't know. All in all, it's just funny. You didn't really give me much on the president's tweet. I think it's funny that
I mean, I don't think he go cutting ahead here, but he could barely remember anything. I have my doubts that he rigged that game. Someone may have rigged the game, but Biden going, it's all according to plan. Nah, you didn't do shit.
Well, no. Let's agree. Biden hasn't rigged anything in years. I don't think he even understands the meme. Like if you showed him the tweet and you were like, do you get what you just sent right here? Like again, there was not a meme Trump tweeted that he didn't completely and totally understand. But if you showed him this, you with Homelander's eyes, do you know what's going on with the eyes there?
He probably thinks Superman.
Yeah,
he
probably,
would say Superman.
No, he wouldn't even think that.
I think he'd know Superman. He's old enough.
He would know Superman. He's not making that connection to Superman. He's definitely not. He's just looking at me with red eyes like, what's it, me angry? Like, he's not going to get one that's a socially
it's a dude who
culturally
wants to destroy
significant
America pretty much or take it over.
He's not going to understand that it's a culturally significant meme and what it actually means. And if you showed him what's according to plan, he'd be like, I don't know, is it Easter? Like he's not even going to know that the Super Bowl was today. And let's not forget, I can't remember the lady's name, Marie-Joanne Japon, like whatever. It's a couple dashes in there, but the White House press secretary, that lady, she got caught tweeting from her account as Joe Biden. So it goes to show that there's multiple people that can plug in and be the president. And I've said that numerous times on the show before. It's like, imagine being that like 20-year-old or 24-year-old. It's like, on Twitter, I am the president. And so, like, yeah, some kid was just like, this is funny. This keeps him hip. This is with, this is hip, makes a meme about the Super Bowl. I don't think he's rigging it. I don't even think he knows he tweeted it. So, like,
well, he definitely doesn't know he tweeted. Well, dude, okay. Well, jumping a little ahead here, but like he just actually he got on TikTok recently. Joe Biden made like one of his first TikToks.
Really?
Yeah, I was going to save this for our next topic, but this seems to be going with it. He made his first TikTok, and it's like for the Super Bowl. He's like trying to connect to young people, so they're asking him questions. He's standing there, he just looks so old. And they're like, which Kelsey do you like, Jason or Travis? I like Mama Kelsey. She makes good cookies. And just like, and this is from the Jon Stewart show. He's just like ripping on him. It's like, you had a chance to connect to young people, prove that you're not as crazy and old as everyone thinks you are. And you just go, she makes good cookies. Like, hell of a first TikTok, President Biden.
Yeah, he's too much. Yeah, so I guess with wrapping thoughts, I guess the Super Bowl went exactly how I would have thought it went. I mean, when there were 8 people left, I put my money on, literally, I was like, Chiefs are going to win. And they pulled through. So if it's not the Browns winning, it's a disappointing game no matter what. It was a fun evening with friends and family, and we got nice and fat. So to me, we were the real victors. So take that, Mama Kelsey. Your cookies weren't even near us. Doug, wrapping thoughts?
I definitely expected Kansas City to win, so it's really not a shock. But I definitely didn't want them to win, and I think most people did not, like you said at the start of all this. But I think this, like, next year, Taylor Swift will probably be performing at the halftime show. That's my hot take.
Before I send it to Brian, one last thing that I forgot. Can we also acknowledge how absolute trash commercials are anymore?
Oh,
Like,
there's
this
no
is-
good Super Bowl commercials. There was like
Yeah.
one that made us laugh, or two. Like, it used to be every commercial. If you're paying all that money to air a commercial, it's got to be good.
Well, I think creativity's dead. It doesn't exist anymore. I mean, even Bud Light wants to spend the money to make an opportunity to buy your appreciation
Get
back.
as many stars as they could in one commercial for Bud Light.
So again,
They went
instead,
cute and cuddly.
what's that?
They went cute and cuddly this time.
Well, instead of, being creative and having, a memorable tagline like Dilly Dilly, or, well thought out, articulated concepts like the frogs, or even going back to the heart, there were some real just hardcore patriotic bring out the Clydesdale commercials. And instead they just made like a shill commercial of every person they could buy out to just stand in a Bud Light commercial. It literally had no point, just stuff in as many famous people that would be willing to sell out as possible, because there was no other point to it. It's just like, well, look at, they don't think it's a gay beer. They're drinking it. This guy, even Post Malone's drinking it too. They're drinking it. They don't think it's a gay beer. Like, to me, it was such a desperate attempt. And like, the first 2 quarters of commercials were literally movie trailers. Like, they weren't even actual commercials. And I get it. Yeah, you had the actors hold out the, whatever, the strike. So I could understand why that kind of dominated the market. But to me, it just felt like you don't have anything entertaining anymore. That was it too. You would get to just like a basic insurance commercial, or that was it. There was literally medicine. Like, it was like your 2 p.m. basic cable commercial, just medicine. And you're like, okay, once you're trying to sell me anxiety medicine with all, and the side effects are headache, stuff, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, if that's now made it to the Super Bowl, but again, don't forget, everything's brought to you by Pfizer, So we know who's keeping these cable companies propped up. And that's been another topic we've talked about in the past too, that cable's dead. It is totally dead. And the views actually aren't there at all. However, it's still totally alive. And that's because the pharmaceutical industry is propping up a dead medium. I don't know. To me, it's funny seeing how there are no good commercials left. And now, like, that's what used to draw non-football players to this spectacular event. This was a familial thing. Everybody would come together because there was something for everybody. But now I'm just there for the football.
But that's why they had to rig it for Kansas City to make it so that they could have Taylor Swift there to bring those people in. Boom, full circle.
There it is. There it is. But yeah, it's just funny because you definitely don't have the support. Sorry, Brian, you ready? Let me wrap it up.
As far as the commercials, I like the Dorito one, where they're all like kind of fighting over the bag. But there wasn't really any standouts to me, and I just, like you were saying, it. Well, all right. One point I wanted to bring out was at the very beginning of the game when defenses were ruling all, and there were some like non-calls that should have been calls, like pass interference on defense and just other things were like, I don't know, normal game. I just caught myself going, they're not going to call that or that or that. And it
seemed like the second half, the refs became a lot more significant than they were in the first half.
Yeah.
Like noticeably. And that's when the game really made it, the current of the game really made a turn. That all being said, let's get to our second topic here. And it's an interesting one because it goes to show the double standard within our government and kind of the deep water we're in. But Biden wasn't competent to stand trial or stand investigation as he was found to have compromised information and classified information in his garage, just sitting next to his Corvette. And it goes to show, at least to me, how lackadaisical they are with very important information. Say what you will about a box of files at Mar-a-Lago, but at least they were being used. I mean, this isn't being used by this man.
And protected.
I guarantee if you asked him what was the information in that box, he wouldn't even know. He wouldn't even know. That was somebody else in his administration. So what's scary to me is you're admitting that he doesn't have the competency to be held accountable for mishandling information. However, he is competent enough to hold the highest power job that holds all the answers to classified information. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Doug?
I mean, he forgot some pretty important things too, according to the report. Like he couldn't remember the dates of his vice presidency. He couldn't remember when his son Beau died. I mean, you spent 8 years working under Obama. You're telling me you don't know when that was? I mean, 8 years of your life, you apparently can't. You couldn't even make a guess. You just couldn't remember or something. And then, like, your son died. I remember when my family members have died. I remember the dates. Hell, I remember when my dogs have died.
Right? Yeah.
You're telling me you can't remember when your son died? I have some major concerns about that. Like, you hear the report, but then you're looking into it. It's like, he forgot some really important stuff, like not business related stuff, not like your life stuff, like what you've done with your life and important things, people in your life. Like he couldn't remember that. Like it's one thing if he could, do you remember that one trip you did to this country for this one thing? But it's like, you can't remember 8 years of your life. You can't remember a son that died, a tragic event. Like scary.
No, and again, talking about that double standard, how crazy is it that they actually called into question Donald Trump's capacity to be president, quote, because he eats too much fast food, right?
Yeah.
Like they actually
he loves
did
that McDonald's.
They actually did a physical and health examination to see if he has the ability to hold the position of president because, quote, he eats too much fast food. My question is, what's the standard to trigger that?
And
Okay.
what's a lot of fast food? Yeah, like
So, well, again, we're reliant on our representatives, to trigger that on our behalf. What's our problem? When our representatives are all blue jerseys, well, they're gonna, witch hunt their way to, trumping up some charges. But here's
trumping
what's
up
crazy.
some charges.
And this comes back to controlled opposition, the PSYOP, why I think Republicans are just as compromised as Democrats. This is a Democrat-controlled or a Republican-controlled Congress. Why are they not taking control of this? What is it? Why is it not triggering them to intervene and make a health consideration for a guy that, again, doesn't know when his son died, doesn't know when he was vice president? The reality is there is enough evidence literally out in the open for all people. I mean, we could get lost in the weeds for hours of clips of him quite literally making no sense.
Oh my God, so many, and now even more clips since he's trying to rebuttal it. There are even more clips that, if you look, he just makes more of a fool of himself while trying to prove that he is capable. And it's like, dude, you just went the wrong way in that interview, or you just did the wrong action. It's like he's hurting himself too.
And again, he has a lot of the symptoms of dementia because he lashes out when he gets confused. He gets short, like you were talking about before we get started, when he was yelling at the one reporter.
Yeah, one reporter was like, voters are really concerned, about that's your opinion, blah, blah, blah. Like he's yelling at him, and he just walks off. And then his advisors are probably all like, yes, great. He was in command. He took charge there, and now he's walking out on top. Nothing bad happened. But then he stops and turns around and comes back. And they all had to had to be like, God damn it, why didn't you just keep walking? Because then he comes up to the podium and he's like, yeah, Gaza. Nah. He's
oh
like,
my God, you reminded me. And he confused the president of Egypt
Mexico
with
and
the president
Egypt.
of Mexico.
oh my God. And that too. That was hilarious.
Hey, but he should be the guy in the room doing all of our, global arena negotiations on our behalf, right? Like, just, the border with Mexico. And he's like, no, dude.
Yeah, we got to figure out where the people in Palestine and Gaza can go to. It's like Mexico's here and Gaza's over here. I do hope someone told him that.
Let's hope that he came from such an old time that he can still totally understand the difference between a sombrero and a towel. Then he's like, okay, we're grounded at least in some world.
Doug, you do have a map behind you.
Yeah, and even then he'd be like, I don't know, Brian.
Bama Boy is cracking me up. First he said, I'm convinced that Biden has Alzheimer's.
Definitely,
I'm like, for facts, he has Alzheimer's. And then he was like, he can't even remember what he was wearing. Let's be honest.
Come on. No, wait. Remember what he was wearing. I can promise you he is not picking his clothes. There is no way he is picking his attire.
Someone's probably doing everything for him at this point.
I guarantee. I guarantee they're feeding him. Just spoon feeding him. He lives off of ice cream and applesauce.
Baby food too, soft stuff that, he can easily swallow and digest.
Now listen, man, you got to give it to him. He's got a nice pair of choppers. and his hairline's pretty. I mean, they chopped it up. They hacked him up good. It looks good.
I'm just wondering how many times they changed the Depends a day.
I'm guessing a couple.
You gotta at least give him this. The problem with dementia is I think he's physically still pretty strong. I just think he is mentally mush.
I think he's and then I saw something on the news. They showed him in vice president, and then like a clip of every year him saying I'll prove myself. Just watch what I do. When all since vice presidency ended and he started running the first time and everything 4 years ago, and they showed all his clips, and it's 2024 and 2020, just in the 4 years, he looks bad. Well,
so what does it say then again about the fact that they're actually going to try to run with him again. Like, that can't be real, right?
I think they're just baking on him. Like, what if he gets elected, realizes he can't do it, and he like leaves the office? Like, what if this is all planned to get Kamala into the presidency?
Do you really think she's going to be the vice president? I really don't think, no matter who
If
he runs
he's
with.
smart, he will pick someone different.
I imagine he probably will. But again, to me, it also, okay. No matter who they're going to switch to, remember way back in 2016, it was a douchebag versus a turd sandwich. Those were the two candidates running for presidency.
I do.
Well, I feel like we're in that same situation again. And I feel like that's the cycle we're always going to be in. That's going to lead us to our last topic here. We could probably transition to it if we want.
Probably.
No,
could.
I want to keep them separate. But that being said, people are sick of having these two terrible options. What I think the Democrat Party doesn't want is the next 9 months us just trashing whoever they actually will have, because whoever they actually will have will suck, just like the Republicans. I'll admit it. Whoever they got will suck.
It's going to be a crap election. If there was a third candidate that could actually have a chance, I'd probably vote for the third candidate.
I don't know, man. After that great Super Bowl commercial, our RFK Jr. is getting extra spicy. Like he's getting more and more enticing, because as much as I don't like that his dead wife had really tight relationships with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and there seems to be a bit of a sketchy past there. Love what he has to say about, I'm not going to say the V word, so I'm going to go with Mercury. And I think policy-wise, everything he's done, his heart's in the right place. He has good intentions. And if anything, it's still a vote for not the D-bag or the turd sandwich. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Again, I want to avoid the next topic.
I mean, this has to be the last time Biden and Trump are going to run for presidency, right? Like,
well,
even
it has
Trump
to be
or
for
Biden,
Trump, no
because
matter
they're
what.
both super old. Like, there's no way, like, you know, if Biden loses, he could technically then run again, but he's probably done if he were to lose. Trump just seems like the guy, like, he's going to keep going until he gets that second term, you know, and then he's going to try and push people to make it so that he could have a third term or something. But, I mean, Trump's like got his group behind him, but when he's like over 80 years old and wants to try and be president, I think that's when, like, we really then got to be worried that people still want him to be president.
So I was going to try to avoid this so we could do it for another episode, but I do feel it's necessary to at least acknowledge it. Everybody wants their political opinion, but nobody wants to do the political homework. How many times have I said that? And I can't say it enough. And it's because I mean it. The reality is this. One of the most important interviews of our time just happened. And I'm pretty confident I'm the only one in this room that's actually given it the time it's needed. Brian, have you listened to it?
I didn't watch the whole thing.
So here's what I'll say. Tucker interviewing Putin was fascinating. And at the end of it, you're going, okay, what's the opposite of the BS Ukraine flag? Like, I'm damn near this close putting a Russia flag on my mailbox, because it's like, I want whatever the opposite of that is, I'm going for this. Because here's what's scary. And again, I want to save it for next week. Hopefully David can really help me kind of volley the dialogue. But there was an article that came out today, and it's super weird because I like getting articles from like the liberal news. So I was going for Yahoo News post this article about how this is why the U.S. refuses to cooperate with Russia or with Putin. And you're like, and it gave all these reasons. They were all very interesting, but it's like very calculated justifications for not being cooperative and like putting the end of the human race and its tension, like justifying pushing that bound. It's like, here's Putin, and he's just advocating for cooperation. I'm not sitting here saying I have no intention of taking over Poland. And Tucker opens the interview by saying, okay, I thought he was just filibustering and I thought he was trying to waste time by giving me, these long history lessons. So I try to push him and be like, no, but talk about right now, like Ukraine. And he's like, no, and he started from the way back at the beginning of Russia through all these different dawns and chapters that brought to this current regime. And okay, we all got to acknowledge it's probably not 100% accurate. Right? It's got to have some propaganda, some personal agenda twist on it. But at the very least, this tells you what Putin's perspective is. Like, it may not be truth, but at least you get a deep understanding of how he sees the current state of things. And to him, it's super deeply rooted in this long history that brought us to where we're at today. And when you finally let the guy have his piece, man, there's some logic to, not logic, but that there you could build empathy and understanding. Maybe not empathy, because he's still a cruel guy, but understanding. And there's also a severe lack of understanding. Why is they go, when's the last time you've talked to the dead guy? The president. When's the last time you've talked to our president? And he literally says, I can't tell you the last time I talked to him, because all he talks to are 3-letter agencies. And so through this Ukraine war that they're taking our billions and billions of dollars to fund, it's very interesting that here's the guy speaking to the world saying, yeah, I've been trying to be on the phone, trying to make a connection with them, trying to reach an understanding in a middle ground and de-escalate tensions. And 100% of the time, our 3-letter agencies keep saying, we have no intention of de-escalation. And literally one of the last contacts with the 3-letter agency, I'm hoping to make a connection with you and de-escalate the situation. We said, verbatim, we have no interest of de-escalating, and we just funded like X amount of billion more dollars into Ukraine. That was our response, is we just threw in billions more. Ha ha ha. So like, we're the criminals here. And throughout the whole, here's what I'll say. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm an advocate for Putin and say he's a good guy. But what it definitely shows is we are equally as bad. And it comes back to like what we learned from Saving Private Ryan. I got no qualms with the dad who's trying to raise a family in Russia, and he ain't got no qualms with me. It's our assholes that sit in the big chairs that got qualms with each other, and I think it's about time we let them fight it out themselves, because it ain't mine. So here's what I got to say. One takeaway from the Putin dialogue, and the only reason I found it extremely fruitful to bring back to this Biden conversation, is as Putin's going through all these different stories, right? Like one of the stories, a huge takeaway that was super interesting was he goes, in the room next door to the one you're interviewing me in right now, I looked at Bill Clinton and asked him, what would it take for me to join NATO? I'm interested in joining NATO. Would you let me? And Bill Clinton's like, that'd be great. I'd love to get that initiated. We should get this started. Then the crew broke for lunch. Everybody broke away. Then when they reconvened, Bill Clinton grabbed him aside. He goes, I spoke to my people. They said, yeah, it can't be done. Can't be done. So Tucker keeps pushing. He goes, okay. But if he said you could have joined, would you have? He goes, that's not the point. It doesn't mean anything anymore. What the point is I tried, I asked, I started the conversation and started making the moves to initiate it. And I said, I was told I couldn't. And so here's a guy that remembered this president. And he was able to go back 3 presidents before him and 3 presidents after him. And so and this is a big major flaw to our presidency system, but also I think it's a necessary flaw that we need to, accept. But the reality is there is an advantage to a leader that gets over the learning period and becomes a weathered, wise owl in the position. This guy lived every president. And he just kept having all these experiences where he'd meet a new asshole would walk in. He goes, hey, guess what? X, Y, and Z. And they'd be like, the 3-letter agencies are doing that too? Oh, this is a crime. We need to shut this down. And he goes, and then nothing would happen. because they can't do anything and they ain't running your country. So you got a new puppet that changes off of the hand every couple of years, but it's the same asshole hand and you don't even know who the hand is. And so to me, one, he gave a really great perspective of this chokehold and terrible situation we're in as a country. But then it also showed like, this is the world arena we're competing in. That guy is no idiot. And guess what? He's a dictator. He's a violent mongerer. And yet he actually struck a chord with me because he was so well spoken and delivered and presented himself in such a way that you scratch your head going, is he that bad? Yeah, he's that bad. Yeah, he's that bad. He's a shitty guy. Bad guy. At the same time, though, he presented himself in such a way and his country's politics that I'm like, man, I think I got to burn every blue and yellow I see out on the street because that's the problem. I mean, to me, I was lost. The virtues were lost simply on a well-spoken, brilliant person at the helm. So how much are we crippled by a Roomba running our country? I don't know. It was a long one. Ben, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. You threw a lot there, man.
All right, then let's go to a comment.
Bama Boy said Putin said the same about Ukraine. You can't trust what he says, about invading or attacking Ukraine. I wanted to say that if you saw some of the mainstream news sources, they were attacking Carl Tuckerson.
I like that.
Tuckerson guy.
Whatever. They were attacking him for saying he's not a real journalist, and that they were all saying it like he's not.
Yeah. Did you see the meme of it's Barbara Walters interviewing Putin, journalism. The other Greek clown from NBC interviewing Putin, journalism. And then there was one other third, liberal shill that did it the most recent, interviewing Putin, journalism. And then it shows Tucker sitting with Putin, treason. And it's like, if you watch it, it presents no position. And the way he pushes and pries just as much as he kind of lets him, say his piece and get away with some. Like he pushes, it's a good ebb and flow, give and take, because again, at any point, the richest man and most powerful person on the planet could just stand up and go, I'm done, and walk out. Or go, your head no longer attached to your body. Goodbye. Like, you got to tread lightly. This is one of the literally craziest people.
You don't want to wake up with like cyanide in your cereal or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, wrapping thoughts on how interesting it is that we have a president that isn't competent, literally does not hold the capacity to be tried on mishandling classified information. And he's running against a guy that we actually crucified for handling classified information. So the hypocrisy cannot be stood for. And this is a perfect transition into the next topic, which we'll introduce following our close here. But we can't stand for this anymore. They can no longer continue to get away with doing this in our face and being so blatant about it and us just standing aside and allowing it to happen. Okay? You broke the law. I mean, this comes down to JFK. When he was murdered by our government, the Secret Service threw the Dallas coroner against the wall and stole the body and totally broke jurisdiction. So we don't have to go through any conspiracies. Who was in the bush? Who was in the building? Keep all of it. I want to know how long after. There's no statute of limitations of the government killing our president and or breaking the law and or no longer representing the people. And at some point we go, that was a break of jurisdiction. I'm not just going to listen to that in a Hulu documentary and roll over. Like at some point, we all need to go, yeah, not cool with it, and start speaking out against this. Yeah, you mishandled classified information. And if that means Trump's got to go down too, I'm fine with it. Because guess what? We got a tribe of 350 million people. I'm confident we could find two better choices. So if Trump's got to go down in the pursuit of taking down Biden, I'm all for it. I want to know what's going on with your son's laptop. Oh, no. We just, laser islands in Hawaii or whatever we got to do to distract you. And that's why it's perfectly seasoning the episode with just the silly, stupid commercial shit of the Super Bowl. And now, again, focus on that. Swifties, Taylor Swift was there. Your girl was at the Super Bowl. Wear a jersey. But don't pay attention to the fact that this guy doesn't even know when his son died or when he was vice president of the United States. Quite literally the biggest accomplishment.
And 8 years of his life. It's not like it's a one-time thing that just happened. It was 8 years of his freaking life.
And the biggest period of his life. You understand, it's not just 8 years and you went to band camp.
Yeah.
It was 8 years and it was quite literally the greatest accomplishment of your existence.
Up until becoming real president.
But he isn't president. He doesn't even know he's president. The three-letter agencies are president, and they love it. And that's why if they could make you mad at the orange man enough to keep this cush deal, because, again, they could get some patsy in there, but every dumb patsy we've had has a couple of opinions. A dead guy doesn't even know what the opinion to have, except that he wants mint chocolate chip. That's all he needs, and that's perfect for us.
He wants Mama Kelsey's cookies.
I don't know. So those are my wrapping thoughts, Doug. Wrapping thoughts.
I feel like every president probably has some sort of documents somewhere that they probably should. And it all started with Trump because of whatever, people don't like him. People either really like him or really don't. And the first time I remember president being gone after for him holding on to some stuff. But I guarantee almost every president probably has something. Now, are they all classified? No, but I guarantee you they have some shit they probably still shouldn't have.
Before I pass it to Brian, that's a great point. And one last interesting thing I want to ask is, don't you all find it interesting that we know none of none of the classified information that was let out? It's no. Information was let out. Oh, yeah? What? Let us gauge how severe it is. Yeah, no. You get to know none of it. So to me, it's also information is power. So yeah, I don't like the fact that you're mishandling power, but at the same time, how about this? How aware are you guys in this room that the boogeyman germ, the Wu Man flu that we just experienced, the government documents on that whole period is sealed for 75 years. That is to ensure any person that experienced this bull that would have an incentive to be mad and emotionally invested in seeing justice.
Come on, man.
They won't exist anymore. So conveniently, I don't know. To me, I find it very interesting that kind of like the Kennedy documents. They keep moving the ceiling it's sealed, and they keep pushing back its unveiling because the folks that need to be held accountable are still alive. And that's exactly what they're doing. So this is how they operate. So to me, it's wait. Let me evaluate if I should be pissed at Trump. If he's just saying if the government document was, we let iPhone radiation be a little bit, more potent than England and whatever it is. Did you see that? There was an iPhone. We talked about that last week. How there was an iPhone that was outlawed in Europe because the radiation from it was too high compared to, and yet here in America it was no problem.
And then they did a software update, and now there's not that problem anymore.
Take my word for it. The software update's gone. It's fixed. But it's wait, but I would have wanted that information. So what are you protecting? Why am I not allowed to know this? And again, I understand keeping classified information and central intelligence is essential to a dominant state in the global arena. I respect it. I get it. But at the same time, there's a balance to it. The Haight-Ashbury stuff. When you were given Charles Manson and the crazy hippies a bunch of LSD and letting him in and out of jail like a revolving door. There were plenty of police chiefs that had to let him go because it was above their pay grade, and it was because he was successfully decrediting the hippie movement and the movement against the Vietnam War. So it's like, wait, but you give us that information once all the people that would have actually been affected by it are gone. And now, yeah, it was our grandmas, but like, yeah, it is what it is. But that's how they operate. I don't know. Brian, and then you can wrap it after the comments.
All right. Bama Boy going off. You asked us last week about the things that were rigged, and the U.S. election, who they want is who they'll get.
Thanks,
Everything is
unfortunately.
rigged. I still got it. He also said something else that's a scary thought is the nuclear red button. And if he gets confused and thinks it's Tetris and he just hits that button at any time or calls it in at any time. I had a thought
G7.
about you were saying orange man and all this. What about the orange hair with the devil sign? Ooh, now we got a real conspiracy going.
Ice Spice.
That's all I got.
I appreciate that. All right. Final topic here. It gets interesting, Doug. I got to tell you, because the people, as much as I get here with my 300 Romanesque like motivational speeches to grab your arms, the people are waking up to this. They're getting sick of it, and they're finally taking a position. An interesting result from the Nevada primaries is that 67% of the votes went to a write-in of none of these candidates, which is huge. I think that's amazing. Doug was telling us, though, before this podcast that it's weird that there's our state, like Ohio, the swing state that we like to believe is extra free. You're not allowed to have write-ins. Like, they've got us in the chokehold that these bipartisan, mechanisms like to keep us locked in.
Yeah, it's pretty crappy, I think, that we can't do a write-in. Like, during the actual election, like the federal election, we have to because but like the state runs our primary and they've decided not to do that, probably because they know there might be a lot of votes for somebody,
Right?
Like,
Right.
didn't Harambe get a lot of write-ins during the presidential election in 2016?
Let's agree. You want to shut down write-ins because you want to control who the options are.
Your party wants to control because there's only the two parties. You can have a third, but you have these two parties, one of each that truly has a chance of going. And yeah, it's all control. They want to limit us. They don't want us to write in someone they don't approve of.
Well, again, they like to, reminding us the barriers of entry, right? The gatekeeping of like, it costs millions and millions of dollars to run a campaign that makes you relevant. And I mean, think about RFK. Nobody really is taking him serious, no matter how many podcasts he's been on. He had to spend probably $25 million on that Super Bowl commercial.
Oh my God, so much money.
I could only imagine. I could only imagine what he spent on that.
Oh.
And the reality is that, so the conversation turns into, well, you got to have all of that money to even have a chance. And the truth is that gatekeeping, that barrier to entry, just this huge, standard of money that you got to have so much money, that totally dissolves with write-ins, because you really don't need the money. You just need the eyeballs, the attention. Like, somebody like Joe Rogan could become president in a write-in situation simply because his audience is 100 million people globally. And so for free, I've got an audience bigger than CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC combined. And all I got to do for free, and in fact, it's not even free, I'm getting paid $300 million from Spotify.
Yeah, all he's got to do is register in each state, and how much does that cost him? He gets more free press, like you said, because like he's out there, like he's done his own show. Everyone knows him. Like, those people actually have to fight to get on a show or get what they want to say out there. He has his own damn platform. That's a great point.
But again, in an ever increasing in ever increasingly connected world, the power is quickly decentralized to individuals. And so regular people can break into the system. You know, I could never have a show like this if I had to pander to, you know, a producer's board at Warner Brothers. They'd be giving us notes. They'd be saying you can't talk about Jew tunnels. It'd be a whole thing.
That's why Jon Stewart is back on the Daily Show. Apple TV canceled him because they didn't want him talking about stuff during the election that could get him and them in trouble.
Exactly. So now independent creators can just grab to the medium and create their own message, create their own platform. And that's why there is such an overt effort in, you know, algorithm games and shadow banning, or however you want to present it, because the reality is we don't want independent creators taking over a medium that we have sole control over. What's up, Bri?
Just like the godfather of all podcasts, Rod Stewart, or not Rod Stewart.
We're having a hard
Help
time
me.
with names.
I don't know. You have my phone.
The
I can't.
The Stewart. The guy that does all the podcasts, Sirius XM.
Howard Stern.
Howard Stern. Thank you. Wow.
The father of radio.
We're talking
Yeah,
way
the
too much
father of
about
radio.
Biden.
Father of radio.
Yeah. Well, he had the whole censorship thing, and there was a whole thing on Vice about the dark side of Howard Stern, and they went on to say, you know, he went to Sirius XM because they wouldn't, or they were in his studio literally hitting the button to censor him live because radio had the three-letter
the
word
FCC.
under
Radios have
control.
all those rules, man.
Right. The FCC, the total control over that. And again, it's funny because he was such a pivotal figure in, you know, expanding free speech and standing up for the rights of open air broadcast, to where I don't know where broadcasting on the internet would be if it wasn't for the trailblazing that like Howard Stern did before this. Because it's funny, the internet's like the wild, wild west. And you could really say or do anything insofar as the website, the social media, the platform you're using, is insofar as they allow you to do it. And really, they could let you do anything. Like, nothing is saying you can't put corn up. Twitter does. Facebook just decided not to. And so, like, these social medias are making up their own rules. It's a wild, wild west of its own sake. But there's no one saying they have to do it. And that's what draws people to their platform, and that's what draws people away from their platform. But I don't think the internet would be so easily free on its inception if there weren't so many battles already fought on the radio airwaves with Howard Stern. I don't know.
I mean, Howard Stern like was pretty like new, like everything he did at the time, like producers and everything, like, oh my God, like it's but now it's like even normal radio shows are a little bit Howard Sternish because they can do more now, because normal radio is now trying to compete with the XM, and the FCC has loosened. I mean, hell, you can say like every swear word on TV now. I mean, pretty much. I feel like they don't bleep any swear word unless you're on like the big 3 channels.
No, it's a great point. And I got to say, one thing that really reinstills confidence for me with this topic is 67% of people voted none of these candidates. And I remember last election, I'm not asking you to just put a statement. Like, let's agree, that's not a candidate. Like, none of these candidates is not a human. It's not an actual option. You chose making a statement versus actually voting for a person. And what's funny is last year, I asked you, the audience member, or no, your last election, please make a statement and don't vote for the lesser of two evils. Vote for what your heart says. In 2016, was it Gary Johnson? Even though they illegally kept him out of the debates. In 2020, was it Tulsi Gabbard? Before she was exiled and ridiculed from the public arena because she didn't vote by party but voted by her heart. And so when I would say, and even to this election, I was taking the position, I'm voting for, until somebody changes my mind and compels me to believe they're the best, I'm voting for Tulsi. And now I got people on me that a vote for Tulsi is a wasted vote just as much, if not more, than a vote for Kanye. And so
I feel like usually you'd be absolutely right that voting for a third party would be a waste. But when you're having pretty much a repeat of the last election, and
But
these
how
people
is-
are just so old, and you have all these concerns, whichever side of the aisle you're on, both presidents have their own set of concerns you got to think of. I mean,
But again, that's the delusion we live in. You just sat there and fought at Thanksgiving because you're upset and disgruntled because we have the choice between a turd sandwich and a D-bag, and you decided I'm going with the D-bag because it's better than the turd sandwich. But how is that not a wasted vote? You just voted for a D-bag
if
or a
enough
turd
people,
sandwich.
but if enough people do it, then it's not stupid. Just like this write-in, enough people wrote in. How many people do you have to get to win that? I mean, that how many people wrote this in?
67% of the
Exactly.
people.
So
That's amazing. But how about
it's
this?
great.
So let me ask you this. So just an answer on the test, Brian. This is a question for the room. So this goes to you too.
Okay.
But if there was an answer on the test, who's president? Who should be president? And metaphysically, there is a right answer. Subjectively. Totally subjective or objective. Did I just confuse the two? Subjective.
Okay.
Totally subjective. No, objective.
Now I'm confused which word you want to say.
Objective. The word totally outside of personal bias. Okay? There is a right answer. And I'm presenting you two options that are neither the right answer.
Okay.
And you got to write in or vote for the third, which is the right answer. Does it make it any less right if you're the only person to pick the right answer? So why in the hell are you basing your right answer at all off of what other people are voting on? Like, I had somebody on my podcast, the episode will be coming out soon, but here's somebody that actually took a position of moral superiority over me because I would be voting to somebody that would not win versus at least he's voting for the winner. And so the question is, do you want to vote for the winner or do you want to vote for the right choice? And so if you're not following your heart and you're only following your brain and you're doing calculations based on what other people are doing, and well, but if this guy is president, but his VP, he's going to die and it's going to be his VP. No. What do you think is the best representation of your will? If it's a dead guy, if it's a Roomba, hey, to each his own. If it's a little angry orange man that's going to do nothing to make, he's going to do everything in his power to hang you out to dry and make you out to be a racist villain. Is he worth it too? I mean, but taxes, he did the best for my business anybody ever done. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But this is the most divided our country has ever been. We have gone backwards. And so at what point do you go and ask yourself, do you need to vote for the winner? Or do you just want to vote for who you confidently believed was the right choice, win or lose?
I mean, I think it's 6-7% people wrote that in. All right.
But what if it was 1%? That's the inquiry I'm poking.
The crazy part about this is like that's not, like you said, an actual third party candidate. So like somewhere there must have been a post or an effort or someone going door to door. Like someone campaigned for this. like, because to get that amount, it's not like everyone just went there and decided, I'm going to write in none of these candidates.
Yeah,
Because
fair
some people
point,
could have
Doug.
just wrote none or I hate them all. Like, no, people wrote that. And so there must have been some sort of grassroots effort there. And if that
Hey.
can be done there, there's hope that maybe we can get that going in every state. Let's get a write-in movement going.
I love that. I love that. But I don't know, Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like Doug was saying, but going off of it, like a true wolf that was leading people to the water instead of the slaughterhouse.
The Messiah crossing them, or
Kind of like little piggies who blew down he blew down the house, and which one's right? I don't know. Build a brick house. I don't think pigs can lift bricks.
No, Doug, you raised a really great point, because it wasn't that what won 67% was like other or like miscellaneous.
Yeah.
It was a strict statement. None of these candidates, which means there had to have been some other formal campaign. But I do want, so in this instance, I totally agree with your analysis. Perfect. But I do want to further poke at the philosophical question of, if you were the only person to vote for who you believed was the right answer, does that make it the wrong answer because it could never win?
No, I voted for Gary Johnson in 2016, and I'm damn proud of it.
Listen, I'm jealous of you that you did, because what I'm really upset about is I will be the first and the quickest to remind people that you needed 15%. And again, this is precedent and
Like the
policy
unwritten rules pretty much was that. Like, that's
no, this was a written rule. This is a policy that is now gone with and dissolved because we didn't enforce it and it wasn't respected. But all he needed was 15% support to have to be allowed to participate in the presidential debates. And CNN just was like, no, just no, this is our channel and we decide who's on it. And we're telling you no, because he didn't even have 15, he had 16%. Wow. And they said, no. And so again, but I got to tell you, what I wasn't very convinced with about that guy was, if you saw him tour, well, sure, but it was better than the other two, and that was worth voting for. But that dude, what was very interesting or bizarre to me was everything you saw him on, a talk show, a podcast, maybe anything he was talking on to sell himself, was like the same statement. Like, and again, it was a good elevator pitch and compelling to consider an independent and a third party, until it was like the 20th time I heard that. And it was the only thing I heard him say. And very quickly, I'm like, dude, is this all you know? Like, I've heard you literally say nothing else. So, we can start bringing this to some rapid thoughts. I think, Doug, I like the way you presented that. It had to have been more of a formal organization for it to be so, unified.
Yeah.
But also that should only further instill hope and further illustrate how so much of this dialogue and these considerations can happen outside of the mainstream, outside of the controlled, speaking stick that only our media has ever controlled. Brian, before I close, you got some comments?
Yeah. Eric Muniz said William Cooper called all this forms of entertainment as the Roman circus.
Hey, that was the perfect instance for the thumbnail, right? Yeah. Are you not entertained? Don't forget, look over here. Travis Kelce's kissing Taylor Swift as we push the dead guy further down your throat. But look over here, Swifty.
Forget about those top secrets that we just released, but we're not going to tell you.
Did we fumble some top secrets next to the Corvette in the garage? Don't look over here.
Look at Usher.
Yeah, Usher took his shirt off. Look at, he's on rollerblades. Any other comments?
Bama thinks it's a good idea to influence people on TikTok and YouTube. I don't know why they're not reaching out to those social medias.
It is true. I mean, let's be real. I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. really got some legs, and they had to acknowledge his existence simply because he had such a strong tour across the podcasts. Like he started on Theo, went to Joe Rogan, and then quickly just popped across the other tops. Boop, 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 boop. And now he's significant. And is he leading the charge? No. But for the speaking boxes that control the dialogue, he's unavoidable. Can't hide from him. You got to attack him head on. It's interesting. So wrapping thoughts, I love that this is, compelling hopefully a new dawn, a new day for America, where they wake up and realize that we hold the power. That's why they're convinced. I mean, you watch the Gladiator show, like Eric brought up, they literally showed 2 national anthems. That isn't possible for one nation. Under God, but indivisible, but very divisible, because you're all different colors like the color palette. Like, no, we're indivisible. That's what it is. It's one damn nation. And so to me, it's wild that more people, especially the victims this is supposed to cater to, aren't more outspoken about how ridiculous this is. I don't care what the anthem is. They're telling you I have some draw to this because I'm white. I didn't write it, and neither did my mom. All I was told was that this was the anthem for all of us. And so the only thing that has me, intimately appreciated in any way is that my whole life and all of the people that's raised me's lives, this has been a representation of our nation. And what's funny is, all of you that are standing by the division with a second national anthem, you can't even tell me what it is or sing to me the song. But they've got you convinced that you're a victim and that this is necessary. And again, look over here as we actually, spit in the face of Putin as he tries to make some sort of connection with us, or whatever the case may be. Don't worry about our global politics. Don't worry about the poppy fields we raid in Vietnam or the oil fields and heroin fields that we raid in Afghanistan. Just focus on Taylor Swift. Focus on the national anthem. It was a victim. That's what's imprisoning you. Me, the vice president, throwing all your dads in jail. That's not why you guys are in a terrible situation. It's because the national anthem oppresses you. And so again, it's perfect at dividing us. And I just love a topic like this can do some proactive uniting and show that there's other avenues to reestablishing control over the democracy we're supposed to be in control of. Before I pass it to Doug, you got one last
Eric
comment?
chimed in again. While the whole U.S. was sleeping, watching the idiots run with an egg-shaped ball, those behind the New World Order were planning their next attack to take the guns from the American people.
Boom. I mean, it's true. It's true. And as much as I say the solve to this is the Second Amendment, I just want to end my comment on there is some beauty to the fact that our voice was actually heard. 67% fold. I don't know. Doug, wrapping thoughts.
So, we went off a little bit here, but yes, 67% wrote in that none of these candidates. But what we didn't touch on is the fact we also touched on Ohio. We have one primary, but we're not allowed to write it. We have our Democrat, Republican, but no write-in. Well, Nevada has their whole weird double setup where they have a party ran caucus and the primary, but the primary is non-binding based on the vote. And so Nikki Haley ran the primary where none of these candidates wrote in, won. And then Trump did the party caucus, and you did under the rules, you can only do one of those things. And it's just, I don't understand how Nevada does all that shit. That's just confusing to me. That's another part of this. That's how none of these candidates won, is because Trump wasn't even involved in that thing. He did the other one and won 98% of that vote.
So are you taking on the position that many of the people that wrote in none of these candidates actually wanted to vote for Trump?
So that has crossed my mind. That's majority what I think it is. But I like to hope it's like we said, people just didn't want any of them. And I hope that's what it is, because there had to have been some sort of drive, and we talk about social media, this, social media, that. Someone on social media totally orchestrated that right in none of these candidates. Like,
But I like you bringing that up, Doug, because it does emphasize that it probably was the Trump campaign, because there's a lot of money and momentum there. So, like, what's easier? Me trying to convince people to not watch the Super Bowl halftime, right? Like some crazy idea, some Facebook group of, hey, you know that thing you always do? Check a box. This time, write in none of these candidates. Well, you're not going to get the boomers and, like, Eric was saying, those that are already the wool pulled over their eyes and stuck in their lemming life. You're not going to convince that person to do it unless it isn't actually an idea outside of the box. It's still within the box. It's a vote for Trump. Oh, okay, I'll vote for that. So now I'm even less confident in people because 67% says Trump money. That's big campaign money. That wasn't Joe Schmo like me or you running a Facebook. That was so I got less faith in you orange clowns.
Been, but who knows? But like, I still have that hope that like someone will just take charge and say like, or like third parties like. Right now we have the two parties, but we're clearly at a point where we should almost have four, like two to the right and to the right and to the left, like basically because you have these fars and then you got the moderates and then you got like independents in the middle, let's say, or something. But like, so maybe we even have five, but realistically the parties will not split. The funding isn't there for it. You have to be part of the two to get that. Well, if write-ins really can work, if you can get social media and get enough people like that to get behind it, we the people could make our own parties. Screw the two we're stuck with. We could make our own by writing them in, oh, this guy is loved by us, but he didn't get the backing from the RNC or the DNC. It's like, well, let's everyone write them in. Like, let's make our own parties. And if, like independents are kind of like their own group, but there's not many of them. Well, write-ins.
But with the high of the internet, that's ever increasingly possible.
And it makes me happy, honestly. Like you said, my point, and I almost wish I hadn't thought about it and brought it up because you're right. It is a little sad there, but this still happened. We don't know for sure where this came from, but I still like to think it gives me hope for the future.
Right. I think even if the majority of people were fueled by like a Trump campaign movement, there's other people that got caught up in that net that were just like, yeah, no, literally, I want none of these people. Like, yeah, you guys are doing it for another message. You want to support Trump. But I agree, none of these candidates. I'm sure of the 67. If I saw
that, I probably would. Like, I am leaning towards Haley because I don't really want Trump to be the RNC. Like, I don't want a repeat of the last election, personally. Two old guys. But, like, if that was an option, I would probably do that. Like, because like, it's true. I don't want either of them. Like,
right.
Isn't
it sad, though? We've been convinced that there is democracy and we have control over this thing, but we just admitted, like, well, I don't like the options.
That's
I don't know, but you're stuck with them. And that's what you get.
That's why we need more than two parties. We've outgrown the two party. We need to become like almost more of a parliamentary, like the UK, where you have multiple parties and then you get elected locally and whoever has the most then forms a government.
Listen, I don't need a parliament or a committee of people. I just need a committee of people competing. I don't care if it's one winner.
And that's the problem.
I just don't like
the two parties. It's hard to get real true. Look at what we're stuck with for this presidential election because other people can't even get a step in the game.
I don't want to continue to bore people with the same examples, but one that I've used a lot is Coca-Cola. Just as much as their marketing team is supporting and selling Coca-Cola, literally the other 50% of their whole marketing scheme is compelling you to pick it over Pepsi, and that the only other option is Pepsi. So 50% of their marketing scheme is selling Coke over Pepsi, and then the other half is securing the fact that the only other option is Pepsi. In that deal, Pepsi promises to send only half of their marketing is always going to go to selling Pepsi. But just as the inverse, their other half of their marketing scheme is to convince the public there's only one other option. So RC Cola can never get in there because all these other brands. So then when you hear Cola Pop, you only think Coke or Pepsi. So the Republicans, just as much as they're invested in selling Republicans, they're equally and even more invested in selling that the only other option is a Democrat. Because the second that dam breaks, it's infinite options and total control with the people. And doggone it, that's the last thing we want.
That's why I don't want the two parties, man. That's what it is. We have these two we have Coke and Pepsi, we got, and I'm personally not an RC Cola fan, but when I'm getting a little sick of our two options, maybe it is time RC Cola, get a share.
Listen, dude, our heart is popping and we all got diabetes. We don't need either. We need water. Brian, wrapping thoughts.
No, I think you guys summed that up pretty well. I really like that Coca-Cola, Pepsi, because they're kind of like playing on each other. Like, oh well, it's like, did you get to that book about the Curtis Jackson with 50 Cent? Where he's talking to Oprah and he's like, "Let me on your show," and she was like ignoring him or saying no or whatever, and then he was like, well, if we can't be friends, let's just be enemies because at least we'll still be in each other's lives. And she like looked at him like a completely different person and actually got him on her show and they're now friends, but just kind of like that where you just
it gets
bring 'em
attention.
in. Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us. We do this live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. If we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you could do to support this show is share this episode. Take that link and spread it around. We've been out here grinding, giving you a couple hours of content, and every week we're here. So again, the best way to pay it forward and give back to the show is share that link. If you liked it, that means someone else will too. That being said, you can find all of our content at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. Brian and I do a reactions channel live every Sunday at 9 a.m. This past weekend, the theme was football. We got some pretty interesting ones coming up. So if you need to find all our channels, the Clips channel, the podcast channel, the reactions channel, all of it's right there, right on top on our website. Click the banners. It takes you where you got to go. You can find us all there. I want to thank everybody for joining us in the comments. Thanks for getting involved because as I always say, that's the purpose of the live show. The whole purpose of this think tank is to get all of us involved. I appreciate Eric, Bama Boy, all the whole gang was in it, and it really brings a fun and deeper dynamic to the show. And so I appreciate you always being involved and keeping the show going. That being said, guys, thank you, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.